Did you know there was an extraordinary display of affection between Taehyung and Jungkook during the behind-the-scenes photoshoot and filming for the Arirang album? Even the crew were surprised to witness their closeness off camera. There were moments when Taehyung hugged Jungkook, and in return Jungkook would constantly hold Taehyung's hand. Their behavior was incredibly cute. The other BTS members, who seemed to already know about their bond, could only smile quietly. Their sweet moments and the way they acted so in love with each other felt unbreakable, as if nothing could come between them. Watch the continuation of this video and don't miss out. Before we begin, make sure you're ready to enjoy this moment. Welcome to VKook. Amid the bustling atmosphere of the studio, filled with staff moving back and forth preparing lights and decorations for the Arirang album concept, Taehyung and Jungkook seemed immersed in a world of their own. The thumping background music and the photographer's instructions faded into the distance, leaving behind a quiet space filled only with their intense gazes. From the very start of the session, Taehyung never strayed far from Jungkook's side, as if an invisible force kept drawing him back to the younger man. As the cameras began to shoot, their professionalism was evident, but in the pauses between takes, their closeness couldn't be hidden. Taehyung was often caught gently fixing strands of Jungkook's hair, a gesture that went far beyond mere collegiality. Jungkook would simply stay still, accepting the attention with a small smile reserved only for Taehyung, ignoring the other members joking around in the corner of the room. To them, the presence of the other members felt like a blurred backdrop on a grand stage meant only for two. While Namjoon and Jin discussed song concepts, Taehyung was more focused on whispering something into Jungkook's ear, making it flush red. There was no hesitation or awkwardness in their interactions, as if the entire world had been set aside for that fleeting moment under the studio lights. When the photographer asked them to pose closely, the atmosphere instantly became emotionally charged. Jungkook placed his hand on Taehyung's waist with unmistakable familiarity, while Taehyung leaned his head with quiet confidence. They paid no attention to the amused looks or J-Hope's playful teasing as he passed by. Their focus was locked on each other's breath. During outfit changes, instead of resting in separate chairs, they chose to share a narrow seat in the corner of the room. Taehyung leaned back against Jungkook, while Jungkook gently played with Taehyung's fingers. They spoke in hushed tones, a private conversation that allowed no interruption. Even when Jimin tried to gather them for a cheerful group photo, Taehyung and Jungkook seemed reluctant to break their physical connection. They stood side by side, their hands still linked behind their backs, a small secret carefully hidden in plain sight. For them, the other members were merely supporting roles in the larger story of the bond they had built together. At one point, the studio lights were dimmed briefly for technical adjustments, and in that darkness, Jungkook pulled Taehyung a little closer. In that fleeting silence, the outside world seemed to stop, leaving only the two of them searching for each other in the dark. There was no fear of judgment. For them, what they felt was the most undeniable truth in that room. Taehyung often encouraged Jungkook in small but meaningful ways. He would hand him his own water bottle or simply pat his shoulder with a proud look. Jungkook returned the same care, always making sure Taehyung felt comfortable and protected throughout the long and exhausting shoot that stretched late into the night. Even Suga's typically calm presence couldn't distract Taehyung from watching Jungkook during individual shoots. Taehyung would stand behind the monitor, observing every movement with admiration. To him, every angle of Jungkook's face was a masterpiece, more captivating than any album concept they were working on that day. During group shots, they were often caught exchanging glances when all members were supposed to look at the camera. It was as if they shared a silent language only the two of them understood. The world outside could crumble, but as long as they looked at each other, everything felt certain and at peace. Their indifference to their surroundings became even more apparent during lunch break. Instead of joining the large table with the crew and other members, they chose to sit on a quiet studio balcony. There, under the soft sunlight, they shared food and laughter as if time had paused just for them. Taehyung would often tease Jungkook with small remarks that made him burst into laughter, creating a beautiful melody amid physical exhaustion. Jungkook would respond with a warm embrace, showing just how much Taehyung meant to him. They were each other's center of the universe, ignoring the noise of an industry constantly demanding their attention. Every time staff approached to fix their makeup, they seemed reluctantly pulled apart from their close distance. But as soon as the staff left, they naturally drifted back together, like two puzzle pieces finally finding their place. No words were needed. Their closeness spoke volumes about what they felt. Until the final session ended, Taehyung and Jungkook were the last to leave the set. They walked side by side, shoulders brushing, leaving traces of warmth in every corner of the studio. While the other members had already headed to the car, they continued at their unhurried pace, savoring every remaining second of the long day. In the end, the behind-the-scenes story of the Arirang album was not just about music or visuals, but about two souls finding each other. In Taehyung and Jungkook's eyes, the photoshoot was simply another stage to show that their love knew no boundaries and needed no validation. They were content in the world they created together, untouched by anything beyond it. News of their appearance on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon quickly spread, creating a massive wave of excitement across the world. However, for Taehyung and Jungkook, this trip to New York was not just about promoting the Arirang album. It was a personal mission to stop hiding. On the private jet to America, they sat side by side, ignoring the empty seats around them, their fingers intertwined beneath a thin blanket. They ate about how the Tonight Show stage would become a silent witness to the world, that their bond was not mere speculation, but a real and undeniable truth. Upon arriving in New York, a packed rehearsal schedule immediately awaited them at the iconic NBC studio. Amid the tight supervision of the American production staff, Taehyung continued to show his deeply protective care for Jungkook. During soundcheck, he would often pause his singing just to make sure Jungkook's position was comfortable, or to offer a small, reassuring nod from afar. The presence of other members rehearsing choreography seemed like a distant blur in Taehyung's eyes, as all his focus was locked on how Jungkook shined under the stage lights. In the waiting room before the show began, the atmosphere felt incredibly intimate despite the door being wide open for makeup artists. Jungkook rested his head on Taehyung's shoulder, closing his eyes for a moment of calm amid the chaos. Taehyung gently stroked the back of Jungkook's hand, as if channeling all his strength into him for the big performance ahead. They paid no attention to the documentation cameras capturing their every move. For them, honesty of feeling mattered far more than maintaining a rigid public image in front of an international audience. When Jimmy Fallon called their names to the stage, Taehyung reached for Jungkook's hand just before the curtain opened, a wordless promise that they would face the world together. On stage, watched by millions, their interaction felt natural and charged with emotion. Every time they shared a microphone or stood side by side, there was a magnetic pull that drew them closer. The audience in the studio could sense that something deeper than mere teamwork existed between them. During the interview segment, Taehyung often glanced at Jungkook before answering questions, as if seeking approval or simply wanting to see his smile. Jungkook, in turn, openly praised Taehyung in front of Jimmy, calling him his greatest source of inspiration during the album's creation. They laughed together, sharing inside jokes only the two of them understood, creating an atmosphere where the other members seemed like spectators in their own show. The world began to realize that what they were witnessing was no longer scripted. It was a sincere declaration of love. The peak of their appearance came during the performance of their emotional title track, where Taehyung and Jungkook shared an intense duet. Standing face to face, they gazed deeply into each other's eyes as if the studio were empty. In the final moments of the song, Taehyung stepped closer and placed his hand on the back of Jungkook's neck, a bold and affectionate gesture. Millions watching at home fell silent, witnessing how they used a national American television stage to declare each other's presence without fear of judgment. After the show ended and the studio lights dimmed, they walked off stage with their hands still tightly intertwined, ignoring the whispers of staff and the astonishment of the media. Inside the car taking them back to the hotel, Taehyung gently kissed Jungkook's forehead as a quiet expression of gratitude for their courage that day. They knew that after tonight, the world would never be the same for them. But that didn't matter. As long as they had each other, any stage in the world would feel like home, and their love now belonged to the world, no longer hidden in the shadows. Leave your positive comments here. The best comment will be pinned as a way to honor their love. Thank you to everyone who continues to support this channel. May God repay all your kindness. This video reflects my personal opinions and interpretations. This video is created for entertainment purposes only and does not represent confirmed facts.